I want to remind you that we have already done a great job regarding constructing great thesis statement for your essay number 2. My advice to you is actually my recommendation is that you check out all these 8 resources that you see here to create a great thesis statement for your essay number 2. But prior to creating the thesis statement, you have to decide exactly the text you're going to analyze. Do you want to analyze a short story? Do you want to analyze a play like Romeo and Juliet? Do you want to analyze one of the Stephen King novels or any novel for that matter? Okay, so it's up to you. If you want to analyze short story, do you want to analyze one of the short story featured in this class? For example, A&P, The Story of an Hour, Young Woman Brown, or The Lottery. But it's up to you. Let me repeat that again. It's up to you to decide. To decide the short story you want to analyze, the play you want to analyze, the novel you want to analyze. Okay. After you have read the short story or the novel or the play of your choice 100% critically, okay, you have to go back and read it again, and this time you go a little bit more slowly. You do some annotations, you take notes about the characters, notes about the actions in the story, not about everything, the themes, issues, and the everything. You try to not to leave any stone unturned. You have to engage your work. In other words, I want you to read the selected short story, play, novel, etc. Actively, okay, critically. But after you have done so, you should have a compelling question that you want your essay to answer. So the compelling questions will lead you to a great claim about the work. The answer to the compelling question will be debatable. Debatable means that some people will agree with it, other people will disagree with it. So your claim is another word for your thesis statement. You're supposed to have a claim about the work. A claim, in a sense, is debatable. Debatable means some people will agree with it, other people will disagree with it. So since you know that, you have to defend the claim, okay? The claim will come up with. So come up with a compelling question. For example, if your essay is, the essay you want to analyze is The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. You have read the story 100%, you understand it, you have not left any stone unturned. So basically, you have delved into the story. By delving into the story, you have been able to capture the essentials of the story, the essence of the story. Now comes the time for you to decide what you want to do, to come up with a claim about the work, or to come up with a compelling question that you want your essay to answer, to address. When I say compelling question, a question that will not lead to a widely acceptable answer. In other words, is a question that will lead to divisive answers. Some people will agree with them, other people will disagree with them, but it's up to the person, the writer, with the claim to defend it, to argue for it. So, for example, if it's The Story of an Hour you want to analyze, your question you want your essay to answer, is this story a great work of literature? Actually, feel free to ask that question at the bottom of your introduction. I know that the question, but you don't have to ask it. I will know your claim comes stem from a question. But to make it easy for you, you can ask that question before you answer it. So your answer to the question is your claim about the work, your claim about whether the story is a great story, the short story is a great short story. So your question is the story of an hour a great short story? So the question, you can have that question before the last sentence of your introduction, before your thesis statement, before your claim. Yeah. So the answer, I mean, the last sentence will be your claim in answer to that question. Well, so a gracious joy. You, after reflecting, after knowing the short story very well, you know, after you have done some research about what makes short story great, or what is any work of literature great, you realize great work of literature have excellent, great works of literature have excellent contents. That means what these works are about are not garbage, are things that people can learn from, people from all over the world can relate to. You know, when you read them, you get something from them. Okay? So, in other words, these works are excellent content wise. You see the word I'm using? Excellent content wise. I've used this in several times, content wise. Content, CONTENT hyphen wise, WISE. This work are excellent content wise. So that means this work are excellent in terms of the content. So in the shorter way, you say this work are excellent content wise. Okay. Sometimes people say, okay, but that's not enough. There are so many works of literature that discuss subject issues, that talk about life experiences that readers can relate to. Life is insightful, but that's not enough. Talk about literature. This work must also be should be well written. Well written. Yes, organization matters. Style matters. You know, great work of literature, they are excellent content-wise, and they are excellent style-wise. 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 STYLE hyphen wise, WISE. So you can make a case to answer to the question, is the story of an hour by Kate Chopin a great work, a great literary work? The answer at the bottom of the first paragraph, at the bottom of the introduction, is the story of an hour by Kate Chopin is one of the greatest works of literature, in part because it is excellent content-wise and style-wise. So you have two major arguments for you to argue that this work is a great work of literature. One is the content. You have to show in the body of your essay why the content of the work make it a great work. And the other one is style, the way the work is organized, the language used in it, the words. I mean, you know what I mean? Style encompasses so many things. But since you have two arguments, one is content, the other is style, excellent content, and the other is excellent style. You have to compare and contrast them in your head. You have to say to yourself, which one is the most important? Is it style for this work, or is it content? If you think the style, the way the work is organized, a frame, the language used in it is more important than the content, so you put style at the end. But if you think, but in this situation, I think if you think content is more important than style, when you write a statement, you can put content first. This work is excellent because, no, you put content last. It's excellent because it's great style-wise and content-wise. If I say content-wise at the end, I know in your mind you think the content of the work is even more important than the style. But if somebody else may have the same argument, but the person think the style of the work is even more important than the person will have a different thesis statement. The arguments will be sequenced differently. The person will write The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin is one of the greatest work of literature because it's excellent style-wise and content-wise. So if I see style first and content second, I know in your mind the content of the work is more powerful, even more important than the style. So I would expect in the body paragraph, you will spend more time on the more important argument, on the content argument. I mean, the paragraph that discusses it should be longer than the paragraph that discusses style and vice versa. But this is not the only questions, ladies and gentlemen. You may have other questions. One of the questions you may have, whether it's The Story of an Hour, whether it's Kate Chopin, whether it's Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. The question you want to answer, what are the major themes? What I say? What are the major points, major themes, or the major lessons from Romeo and Juliet, or The Story of an Hour, A&P, or any work of literature for that matter? Okay, you say, what are the so the focus you want to say to be laser focused on the major themes or the major themes of the work you want to analyze. Okay, but don't you know the answer you're going to come up with will be debatable? That's what makes it a claim. A claim will be debatable. That should be a thesis statement. The answer to that question, yeah, it will be debatable. You will have to defend it. You will have to show it in a persuasive way. Okay. For example, if it's just the Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin, you have read the story really well. You think the story powerfully shows that the story shows the power of freedom, the power of freedom. Or you can argue the story shows that freedom is more powerful than even love. Okay, that's a claim. Not everybody would agree with that. You will have to defend it. You will have to defend it really well, and using evidence from the text and logic and the body of your essay. So you think that's one of the claims. That's one of the themes, one of the major points of the Story of an Hour. You can say that, but you get so many things in the text to show the power of freedom. So so you can do so that's a theme analysis. You can do your analysis around the elements of fiction. If the theme analysis, yes, theme analysis. Okay, but there are other things. Some people may decide to do a theme analysis as well. The person may argue. It's the same thing. What's the meaning of the story? What's the meaning? What is the meaning of the story? What you think is the meaning of the story will be different from what somebody else thinks is the meaning of the story. Okay, you can what you think is the major theme of the story. Some people would agree with it, other people would disagree with it. It's okay. You will have to defend it. in front of yours or a classmate, want to analyze story of an hour, but that person may focus on something totally different in the story. That person may to decide that the story shows the oppressive nature of marriage in the 19th century. Just crossed my head. I just decided to put it out there. So you can have a great essay in that. You can get evidence, from the story, to prove that in the body of your essay. Okay. The student, one of the things that one of the major statements of the story of an hour is when the protagonist of the story, Louise, Miss Mellon, first transformed into Louise. Okay, she said that she's comparing love between husband and wife, love between boyfriend and girlfriend. She's comparing love, that's an emotion, that's an impulse, to the impulse she's dealing now, the newfound freedom. She's that's when she's feeling so good. She realizes she's free. She's experiencing the newfound freedom, self-assertion, according to the test. She's comparing the two impulses: love for her husband, love and freedom, the newfound freedom. And she says very clearly in the text that what she's feeling now is the biggest impulse. That's a word for it from the text, is the biggest impulse, the biggest emotion of her being. She's comparing to love. We say, what's love? The unsolved mystery. Basically, she's saying love is nothing. Love, as you know, is powerful, but not as powerful as she's feeling now. Do you agree with that? Or do you disagree with that? You can write an essay on that. Is freedom really more powerful than love? You can write an essay on that, a reflection on that. In support of that, or can write an essay agreeing against that. That's, I mean, there has to be debate. That's you understand where I'm coming from. But what else you can do? If you decide not to do a theme analysis, as I just showed to you, you can decide to focus on another element, okay, of fiction. What's that? Character. You may decide to do a character analysis. Let me read that again. You may decide to do a character analysis. If it's the story of an hour, you may decide to show character development, for example, in the story of an hour. Let me read that again. You can decide to show character development in the story of an hour. For example, you can decide to show, to analyze the protagonist of the story before she realizes she's free. Okay, you can and then you can analyze her after she realizes she's free. You can explain. You can write a great essay fleshing out with that, showing as she evolves in the story from being a timid and unhappy, a woman who wants to die because she's so unhappy, to a woman who would like to live forever after she realizes she's free. I mean, you can write a great essay on that. But you can do something else. You can decide to do a plot analysis, plot PLOT, a plot analysis to write an essay on the plot structure of the story. To write, yeah, you can do a plot analysis, and what else can you do? You can decide to take, hey, another element of fiction setting. There is setting as time. That's when the story take place. There is setting, like a physical setting. That's mean where the story take place. There is also setting as cultural context. That means the culture in which the story take place. Okay. We discussed that last time. We read the story of an hour together. Realized in the story of an hour, there was not a lot of information um, regarding the setting of the story. From within the story that the story takes place in a house, but you don't know where the house is located. No mention of cities, no mention of countries, but the story takes place in a house. And the story takes place at the beginning of spring. That's it. That's all you know about setting. Now the question is, maybe that's a question I want to answer. Why? Why setting is so scanty, is so skinny, is so tiny, is so de-emphasized. Let me put the word. Is so de-emphasized in the story of an hour. Kate Chopin decided to de-emphasize setting purposefully. Purposefully, she decided not to say a lot about where and when the story takes place. Now the question, why? What does that do for the story? Does that make the story stronger? Or do you think that makes the story weaker? Most people would argue it makes the story stronger. When you look at the subject of the story, the focus of the story, people say the fact that you don't know a lot about where the story takes place, you don't know a lot about when the story takes place, that makes this story a universal story and a timeless story. That makes the story a borderless story. You read it, you say the story can take place anywhere. This story can take place anywhere. The fact you don't know a lot about the time, the story can take place anytime. It can take place now. It could have taken place 2,000 years ago. It could take place 10,000 years from now. The story. So that's very, very important for the story. But it was different for ENP. Given what John Updike that wanted to convey, but John Updike provided a lot of details about the setting of the story. The story take place in a store, in a grocery store, or in a supermarket. You describe it, okay? But where the place is located. The place is located in the North Shore area. The place is located offshore area. One shouldn't make an argument that it's Ipswich in Massachusetts. Okay, it's not a Boston. The story takes a lot of detail. The story takes in the town where the story is located is very conservative. The story is very conservative, with really rigid dress code. Everybody, don't you think it was very important for General Dash to provide this type of detail? You remember what he had in mind when he decided to create the story? So he had to include it. But Kate Chopin was in a different situation for what she wanted to convey. she realized not a lot of information about the setting should be provided. Speaking of that, you can do a setting analysis comparing the two stories, the story of an hour and and A and B. And one you can show why setting is so emphasized, and the other one you show what setting is so de-emphasized. You explain what the emphasizing does for A and B, and what the de-emphasizing does for the story of an hour. You see, I mean, the sky is your limit as far as you can do. But you can do another thing you can do. You can decide to answer the simple question: what are the major lessons from the work? What are the major takeaways? When you go to watch a movie, you when you take something away from the movie. When you read a short story, a play, similarly, you take something from the play. You can write an essay. I read the title of your essay. The title can be 3 major takeaways from ENP, or 3 major takeaways from the show, or the major takeaway. You can focus on just one of them, or you can focus on 3, on 4. It's up to you. You know, what else can you do? I can go on and on. Okay, I can go on and on. If you have something in mind, what I'm doing, so you would like to say. I will just let you talk. Say, you can decide to do also about context, but you can decide to do a historical analysis. Yeah, a context analysis of different kind. You can write an essay. Your question you want to answer is there a connection between A and P and what was going on in America in early 1960s? Maybe that's an essay you want your essay to answer. You don't know how to answer it. You do some research. You find exactly what was going on in the United States. You realize there were so many rebellions taking place in the United States. There were political rebellion with Martin Luther King and other people fighting for civil rights. There were young people in the street demonstrating against all types of wars, including the war in Vietnam. And there was also a huge cultural revolution. Young people decided to break tradition, to break all these rules that the parents and the grandparents had followed blindly. They wanted to be themselves. That included wearing what they wanted to wear, even if that would make their parents mad. They didn't care. They wanted to be themselves. So you can decide to show the connection between the story now and what was going on, and you can do something even deeper. You can argue. I'll read that when I would last statement of introduction, that the story of an hour was the ANP was relevant to early 1960s in the United States and is still relevant today. When I see that, I know in the first portion, the first segment of your essay, you're going to show the connection between the story of an hour and what was going on, the ANP, and what was going on in the early 1960s in the United States, and also the relevance of this story to now. Okay, everybody understand that? I mean, the sky is your limit as far as, with respect to what you can, the sky is your limit. Speaking of theme analysis, you may decide to argue that rebellion against social norms, okay, is one of the major themes of A and P. Remember another question that you have with respect to A and P is it's about the antagonist of the story. Is it A and P? Is it the manager lingo, or is it A and P per se, the conservative? So we agreed as a class. Well, it's the store A and P, the store that has been in the way of Simon Biggers' dream is the antagonist. And when Simon decides to resign, basically, what he does, he takes a stand against the store and all that the store represents. Okay, so I mean, the skies. I mean, so when I'm speaking, if there was something that comes to your mind, is if there was a question that you would like any essay or your essay to answer, you can just stop me. You can just turn on the microphone and say it, and add to what I've been saying. Um, um, if you want to analyze Romeo and Juliet from William Shakespeare, uh, uh, you may decide to write an essay on the role of fate in the story. Fate is fate. Fate, F-A-T-E. Do you think fate is one of the catalysts, one of the driver of the story? You know, you ask why. We see what happened to Romeo and Juliet at the end of the story. Does fate, F-A-T-E, has anything to do with this? Everybody, your essay can answer this great question. And what are the things? What are the things? Maybe I'm going to I got to teach you. Maybe that's the last question I'm going to ask before I move to something else. The impulse between Romeo and Juliet. Okay, the relation they have. Is it love, L-O-V-E, or is it lust, L-U-S-T? That's a good question. You may want your essay to answer. That's an easy answer. You come to an answer, you will have to defend it. That should be your claim. That should be the sentence of your introduction. Some people will argue it's all lust, L-U-S-T, and they got a point from the evidence from the story to show that. Other people will argue it's love, and they will get evidence, plenty of evidence from the story to support that. And still other people may argue it's lust, L-U-S-T, transmuted or transformed into love, and they will support that as well. They will show where it's lust and when it becomes love. I mean, I think I explained everything to you, so you should know what to do to come up with a powerful thesis statement for your essay. And to know even more, check out all these 8 resources that you see here. I cannot wait to read your thesis statement. So thesis statement is one of the elements, or one of the segments in your introduction, the last statement of your introduction, your thesis statement. Okay, but prior to the last sentence statement in your introduction, there should be there are other things here, background info, depending on how you want. I explained there's 2 ways you can structure the provide background info for your essay. Or you decide which one you want to do. But to get more information about how to construct the introduction of your essay, you read 1, 2, 3, and 4. Read 1 of 2 and 4. Do you want to follow the there was a mistake, that's an L, the final method, not the L, the final method, or do you want to follow the less complicated method, the less sophisticated way for introduction? It's up to you. Regardless of what you decide to do, you should come up with a powerful introduction. Okay, and after you have a full introduction with a strong thesis statement at the end, you will have to develop support the thesis statement in the body of your essay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will show you how to organize the body of your essay. Well, spend time going through this thing. I'll go over, I already went over some of them, but I'll go over even more of them. But don't just rely on that, okay? You are here to learn on your own time. Check out these 6 resources to learn how to construct, how to organize and develop the body of your essay, how to provide evidence in them, okay? And similarly, you're supposed to check out these 5 resources to know how to conclude your essay. And then we have several sample essays in module 2, written by other students. So check them out. And as you check them out, since you know a lot now, you can gauge them, you can evaluate them in your head against all these things, to evaluate the thesis statement, evaluate the whole introduction, evaluate the organization and the development of each body paragraph in this essay, and then evaluate the conclusion for each of these essays. After you have done that, you're ready to write a great essay with a great introduction, with enough background info and a strong thesis statement. Organize a great body paragraph. Remember, we learned last time, when you construct the body of essay, you have to provide evidence, textual evidence, and the type of evidence. The first sentence, you follow the PI method, basically. The first sentence it's a topic sentence, tell the reader what's going to be discussed in the body paragraph. That's we call that it's a mini thesis statement. Okay, that's connected to the major thesis statement. It's a major arguments in the thesis statement. You say that clearly, but after that, in the sentence, you're able to provide evidence from the text. Okay, you provide the evidence, you comment on the provided evidence to fleshing out for the reader. And then after finish doing that, at the beginning of the paragraph, you come up with some type of conclusion before you move to your next paragraph. So to get more about that, how to organize your body paragraph, read all the 5 sources. You can start with 1, go to 6, and then go to check 2 after that, to 3 and 4. Okay, everybody? So I think I've said, I explained this very well. I wanted to recap a little bit. I'm not even done with that. Once in a while, I'll go over this with you. I'll go over the example until I feel all of you are capable of producing what I want you to produce. That's very important. Now, what we're going to do what I said we're going to do.